what was the moment when you and Mickie, obviously you met backstage, I'm guessing, but when was the moment where you went, she's pretty cool?
Not to I don't want to get too personal and mushy here, but obviously I knew who she was and I'd seen her on TV and everything, and obviously identified like, oh yeah, but
yes, she's a very attractive woman. Yes.
Sure. But then when I saw her in person, it was just totally different. It was like I was sitting there and she walked past and I just kind of forgot what the hell I was doing. You know what I mean? And Doug Williams was sat with me and he was just like, put your tongue back in your mouth. and it just, fortunately, it was just one of those chemistry things. Because then she kind of noticed me. And so this is a funny story. I had to go do some promo pictures at TNA. And the way it was set up then was like Lee South would do the photos and he would be in the back end of the impact zone. So you'd have to walk through the impact zone to get to the thing. So I put my trunks on, but like pretty much just had like my trunks on and my like running shoes because it was just going to be like waist up shots, right? So I walk. So they're all it's early in the day. So and Mickie and Lisa were in the ring like with Al Snow, kind of like going over some of their stuff. And I was like walking around the ring, and I just Mickey's not subtle, like she's loud, So and I just heard her. I get sort of to the point where she obviously thought I was out of earshot. And she goes, I'm a looking and I'm a lacking. And I just like stopped and turned and I remember she obviously then she was like, oh my God, But then my favorite was just look at Al Snow because Al was just like, just like, oh my God. Well, we'll never hear the end of it now, and so it was kind of like after that, it was just kind of like, hey, so,
I love that you bring your son with you. So I saw you at the big event in New York.
Yeah.
And your son was with you there. He's with you here today.
Yeah.
Does he come with you all the time?
Not all the time, but he comes to these tapings, for now. He's come to every single one, and it was, some of the guys were talking to me about it, and they said it almost feel weird if he wasn't here now, like as soon as I got it, like everyone says, is Donovan here, and I'm like, yeah, he's here. You hear him before you see him.
He's a bigger star than you now.
100%, story of my life. But like, he's I look at it as like, people ask us all the time, obviously, is he going to get in the business? I'm like, who the hell knows? He's 5, you know what I mean? But I just think of it as, I like him being around. He first of all, he's happy. He likes it here. So that's the most important thing, right? Like if he was miserable, like I wouldn't drag him to this. I would just get the nanny. But he likes coming. They obviously the folks at GPB are phenomenal. It's such a great partner for us. And, the company, again, given my sort of position, they make some nice concessions for me. And one of them is that, we have a nice little room set up for him. And, because they understand that because of Mickey's, Dave's worked for WWE, right? So he understands that it's like, it ain't as easy to just drag him to that.
Is so he's not as welcome at WWE?
No, he's not welcome. I want to make that clear. He's been, and like from what I've heard, like Stephanie's great with him, and like he's been on this, he goes running down the ramp and he's on the set, and all that stuff. But it's not as easy to, you can't do it all the time, right? Sure. Like it's it would become a thing, right? So and just the travel, it's like they're going all over the place. So with here, it's like, but I like the idea of, for now, he's getting to be around this energy, because the energy here is great. You've been here for a day now, like you see it and you feel it. It's like the energy here is so positive and so like, just it's just fostering this mentality of like, it can be done. Like, let's go out there and crush it.
Yeah.
And I mean, 100%, this is the most passion I've ever had for the business. And I'm 15 years in. So whether he decides he wants to be a wrestler one day or not, or whether he decides he wants to be a botanist, you know what I mean? It's like, I like the idea that he just gets to be around me at my most passionate and engaged so that he can understand.
Yeah.
That's, that's what being a professional is. Like that's sort of like, I just think that I'm a big believer that your environment really sort of helps you out in that regard for the rest of your life.
Which is why I would think that in 10 years, he'll start to be like, Dad, I want to do what you're doing.
Maybe.
Or he could go the complete opposite way and be like,
well, yeah. Well, look, my father was a rugby player, but he was also a very well regarded plant breeder, like plant breeding scientist.
that's why you said botanist.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't just a random profession.
Random. But like, my dad used to take me to work with him because I used to love like, oh, cool, like big like combine harvesters and tractors and this and that. But he was like the boss. He was sitting there. He was in an office most of the time. But he would go out in the field with the guys, and because he loved because basically his specialty was barley breeding. So obviously there's a big very big commercial implications for that.
Sure.
So he'd be sought after. He'd have to go to Australia for and this and that to basically figure out like when to plant and like what soil and all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I became a pro wrestler, it wasn't like it's just whatever speaks to you. But obviously I felt like I was brought up in a good environment, to sort of foster the idea that like, approach things with professionalism and with you engage your brain and really think about it and get involved and get stuck in. And when I told my dad I wanted to be a wrestler, like my mom was like, "What? No, please don't do that." Whatever. But my dad was just like, "All right, do it, but just approach it professionally. Approach it like a professional."